We will clearly work with Congress if it comes to the issue of the use of force. I think this administration wants to work within the war powers provision.
I continue, and the American people seem to agree that we in Congress have not exerted our constitutional responsibilities when it comes to war. And I hope that if there is a decision, including Iran as well as Syria, if a decision is made to commit American forces, that the President would feel an obligation to the American people. And again, I'm talking about a situation where we're not being attacked. We just see things happening in other countries that we don't approve of. And I would hope, and I think you did give me this answer, but if you would reaffirm that if we have to use military force, and we're going to initiate that force, it's going to be our initiation that causes that force, that the President, any President, would come to Congress and the American people and justify the need to attack.
As you understand, this President, as other presidents, will operate pursuant to the Constitution. The Constitution makes clear that the Commander-in-Chief should act when the vital interests of this country are in jeopardy. I believe this President believes that if that, in fact, is the case, he would do that in partnership with the Congress in terms of taking any action.
Well, make another statement, then I'll work toward a close, Mr. Chairman. I remember my good friend Randy Forrest from Virginia asked Secretary Gates when we went in, and it seemed like the administration, if they called the leadership of the House and Senate, it must have been one call each House, each Senate. And Mr. Forbes asked Mr. Gates if the Libyans fired missiles into New York City, would that be an act of war? And I'll have to say, because my friend from Virginia is a very articulate and very intelligent gentleman, that he never got a straight answer. So I hope that you will prevail upon the administration not to take those kind of actions as they did in Libya, whether it was justified or not. I won't get into that debate, but in my opinion, that was really kind of a snub of Congress and the responsibility of Congress based on the Constitution.
Congressman, what I can assure you of is that as long as I am Secretary, we won't take any action without proper legal authority.
Mr. Secretary.
And again, that's some jumpy video we downloaded off C-SPAN. We didn't edit that, it's just jumpy. The point is, they're being brought to heel to a certain extent, but there were provisos in there. Well, the President's authorized to protect us. Oh, so NATO can go put al-Qaeda in charge of Libya or Syria? Now, here is Congressman Forbes of Virginia asking Panetta what's going on.
But as I read the War Powers Act, it has those three requirements. Are there any other requirements in there that you're familiar with that I'm leaving out or not reading?
No,
if that's the case, then again, I just come back to if there's no declaration of war, no attack upon the United States, and if we're going to comply with the War Powers Act, would that require specific statutory authority by Congress before we took military action on Syria?
No, again, under the Constitution, as I indicated, the Commander-in-Chief has the authority to take action that involves the vital interests of this country, but then pursuant to the War Powers Act, we would have to take steps to get congressional approval, and that's the process that we would follow.
You'd have to take steps to get that approval, but would the approval be required before you would take military action against Syria?
As I understand the Constitution and the power of the President, that the President could in fact deploy forces if he had to, and if our vital interests were at stake, but that ultimately then under the War Powers Act we would have to come here for your support.
So you get the support of Congress after you began military operations?
In that particular situation, yes.
And then just one last thing, and make sure I'm stating this correctly. It's your position that the administration's position would be that we'd have to get a consensus of permission from the international community before we'd act, but that we wouldn't have to get specific statutory authority from Congress before we would act.
Well, I think in that situation, if international action is taken pursuant to a Security Council resolution or under our treaty obligations with regards to NATO, that obviously we would participate with the international community. But then ultimately, the Congress of the United States, pursuant to its powers of the purse, would be able to determine whether or not that action is appropriate or not.
So as you can see, they're still saying some of the treasonous stuff, but have backed off a bit because they know that this legislation has been introduced to begin impeachment if Obama says the UN is his boss and he can launch any war he wants and Congress should sit down and shut up. We have power when we point out the criminality that's taking place. Since we gave you a Paul Harvey radio broadcast from the past earlier, I thought we'd have a Paul Harvey quote to take us out to break. If pro is the opposite of con, what is the opposite of progress? Paul Harvey, I guess the answer would be Congress. We're going to go to break and come back and break down what the no-fly list is really all about. Over 2 million Americans are on the list. Soon you won't have a job, won't have a car, won't be allowed outside your house unless the TSA and the feds say you're a good little minion. There's no more courts in America. There's a bunch of federal agents that work for foreign banks ruling this country. The true dark side of the New World Order coming up after this break.
Have you been to InfoWarsShop.com lately? Express your inner patriot with these brand new InfoWars t-shirts. Say it loud with the InfoWars Bullhorn shirt, or educate the sheeple with the Bill of Rights shirt. Grope the public's mind with the TSA shirt. And with this shirt, you can let the dark side know of the Rebel Alliance's power. All available at InfoWarsShop.com.
Sick of the globalist eugenicist control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure, and it's available discounted at InfoWars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPure is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. InfoWars.com already has the lowest price on ProPure. But if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at InfoWars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139. And welcome back to this special edition of InfoWars Nightly News. We're continuing to focus on the takeover by the bureaucratic army of the New World Order known as the TSA, who are now on highways, at checkpoints, groping the American people. The new handshake in America is a pot-bellied federal agent who's not even a sworn peace officer trying to grope your wife and children. It is off the charts. If they made back in the 60s a Twilight Zone episode where in a future America your wife and children get groped, no one would believe it. And all for the phantom menace of al-Qaeda, who they admit works for the CIA and taking down Libya and now blowing up police stations in Syria. And the U.S. ambassador just last week to the UN, Ms. Rice, said, Assad step down or we will blow up more of your government buildings. With al-Qaeda. I've got to give my rights up and have some pervert molest my wife and children. That's why I won't fly, but now they're on the highway because of an al-Qaeda threat that's totally manufactured. Even the New York Times admits all these FBI stings have been manufactured. They go out and find mentally ill people, schizophrenics. The white supremacists in Florida last week, same deal. And they get them a bunch of money to just shoot their mouth off when they're drunk. Or they find mentally retarded Muslims and get them to do it. I mean, or mentally ill prisoners. This is insane. It's a synthetic, made-up threat to destroy our liberties. You've heard about, just the last week, 18-month-old being on a no-fly list and a SWAT team waiting and going, no, he may be a terrorist, because the computer says so. They put you on a computer, you disappear. Look, everybody overuses the Nazi Germany analogy to tyranny, but In Nazi Germany, first they curtailed how you could travel with your papers. Then they said if you could have a business or not. Then they said you got to live in a ghetto. Then they said we're taking you away to a labor camp where you'll be safe. Same thing in Soviet Russia, same thing in Maoist China. Under these no-fly lists that we're about to examine in depth, they're on record. Well, I mean, take constitutional lawyer Boyle, who we've had on, who helped write U.S. treaties and who's represented heads of state. They wanted him to spy on his Muslim clients, which is illegal, as their lawyer. And they put him on a no-fly list. Okay? This is what's happened. And you've heard Rahm Emanuel and others say, we're going to put you on a no-gun-buy list. No judge, no jury, no nothing. You just try to go buy a gun. You're a law-abiding citizen, you can't get one. This is the bureaucracy under national security. This is the cashless society. And the TSA has said, you're not going to get a job unless they say you can. They've said they're going to control every facet of our lives, and they're phasing it in. America's now getting street lights put in with taxpayer money that listen to you and watch you beyond 1984. The government, as our founders stated, is the greatest security threat. It's always been. Government's killed 262 million people, according to the University of Hawaii study, in non-military action in the 20th century. They've already killed over 10 million this century. It's called democide. So again, the war on terror is a hoax, a fraud. I wanted to break down some examples of this because our guest who's recently been on CNN is Abe Maschel. He's an honorably discharged Marine Corps veteran. He owns Marine Corps Dog Training and a nonprofit company called Always Faithful that gives free service and therapy dogs to disabled veterans. Wow, what an evil guy, man. This guy is bad. Abe lives with his wife and 4 children in Illinois. Even worse, he's got children. That's not good for the earth. The eugenicists, as we covered earlier, says, the World Wildlife Fund says make everybody poor for the earth, except the globalists that get your carbon tax money. He has a new book out called No Spy, No Fly, and it's so powerful, we've decided to carry it, I should add, at INFOWARS.com, INFOWARSshop.com. That also supports us and the work he's doing. And this is where his book comes in. No Spy, No Fly, just like No Fly, No Gun Buy, is the life story of a United States Marine veteran who was placed on a no-fly list as leverage to become an undercover informer for the FBI. This is what we keep hearing from people. They come to your house or call you and they go, oh, guess what? And there's our guest on the cover of the local paper there in his area. Guess what? You're going to start spying on people for us or you're not going to fly. And in the future, they're just going to turn your credit cards off your bank account. I've seen TSA on C-SPAN a decade ago brag this was their plan. I mean, this is the takeover force, ladies and gentlemen, breaking the law, states' rights, you name it, operating outside their jurisdiction, groping people. And remember, Texas unanimously passed a bill in the House saying they were going to outlaw what they were doing that was already illegal, and the feds said, we're going to have a military blockade, an air blockade with F-16s of Texas. Why didn't we call their bluff? I mean, that's how the Civil War started. This is getting crazy. In a chilling detail, Abe explains how the FBI and other government agencies are really using their expanded powers, unconstitutional powers, since they staged 9/11, I would add. You will find yourself laughing, crying, and getting angry all at the same time when you read Abe's story. So hang on to your hat and get ready for the ride. Again, No Spy, No Fly. This is a true life story of a United States Marine veteran who was placed on the no-fly list as leverage to become an undercover FBI informant. And just incredible. We've got the articles here. It's Wall Street Journal, no-fly list, claims harassment, case of Marine on no-fly list, isolated. That's what NBC's saying. Feds suspiciously banned veteran from flying. That's WL.